So the next part of this restoration is to do the pallets on the treble side. So let's have a look at these pallets. Around. There we go. So these pallets have probably been on there since new. They look like they have. Just zoom in a little bit. There's lots of dust in here as well, so it's a good opportunity to get all the dust out as well. So the first thing before I take the pallets out is I'm just going to get a pencil. Get a pencil, and I'm going to label up each pallet. So I'm going to put it back in the same place, just so that, just in case that they have their particular order. So just put a nice little mark on all of these. Sometimes what can happen in the factory, they've slightly adapted the pallets or the arms to fit, and so it's best to put them back as you found them. Brilliant. Right, now the next step is to get them off. This shouldn't be too tricky because I imagine that the glue is probably quite old. So they've got little leather pads on top of the arms. So I think what I can do is get myself a pair of pliers, just push up the arm, give it a little twist. Off he pops, so that's quite. I might be able to do it without taking off the leather pad. Actually, might make it easier. Yeah. So these are all just going to pop off. Just a little twist. Right, okay, so them's all off. So I'm going to put these to one side for a moment and just concentrate on this. Get this cleaned up first, and then we'll have a good look at these pallets. So just going to put these carefully on this little tray, just to keep them all out of the way for a minute. Put those over there. Just for a tick. Right, now if you have a look at the treble side here, you can see quite nicely, hopefully anyway, that where the pallets have been, there's going to be like a shadow on the wood, and that's what the wood would have looked like new, and this is the wood obviously 80-90 years later. So it's obviously it has discoloured, it's got dirty. But that really helps when you put the pallets back on. That kind of shadow helps you to get them back on in the right place. So That's quite important to keep that there. Well, it will stay there anyway, but yeah, that's that. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take off any remnants of glue and wax or whatever's on these arms. So I'm going to get a little blade and just scrape off any remnants I can and clean up the arms as best I can. So let's have a go with that. Okay, now I'm going to get my little brush. I've got little brushes here. I'm just going to then get as much of this detritus out. Trying to get in all the little nooks and crannies. So these brushes are great for doing that, getting right in all the little bits and bobs. This is quite rewarding actually, because you can get a real good spring clean. Yeah, these little brushes, this is a makeup brush I think I found. I'm going to blow it from this side. There we go. With my human powered blowing system. You have to close your eyes when you do this. Oh my god. Right. But that's looking a whole lot better. I'm just going to keep getting rid of all this. Amazing what you find. This obviously hasn't been cleaned for a long time. And then what I've got a little vacuum cleaner as well. Put it onto turbo mode. There we go. Right. That's not gonna. Oh, fine. It's looking a whole lot better now, but I've still got the shadows which I can use for the palette, so that's good. So I'm going to leave that to one side. Yeah, so much cleaner now. Right, that's good. Put that down. Don't need that for a bit. Ooh, let me just clean up some of this and I'll be back. Brilliant. So next step is to clean up these pallets. Now first thing is to get the slot clear where the arm has been sitting, so that's just a question of carefully scraping away, a little bit of sanding perhaps, but mainly just got a blade, and make sure the slot itself is nice and clear. Just be very, very careful because these pallets are quite brittle, so if you kind of apply too much pressure one way you can actually crack the wood, so you have to be just gentle with these because they are delicate little things, particularly the old ones like this, so you just have to be quite careful really and don't go overboard on the pressure. And then I'm going to take off the old leather because that's just a bit old and tatty, and I want to have a nice surface to glue my new material on. So once I've got it taken off, I'll just get some, I've got some 120 grit, and I'm just going to clean up the surface of each pallet. So I'm going to go along and do all of that, and I'll show, it's quite a long job this, but I'll show you when I've got all of the pallets nicely prepped. Okay, all the pallets have had a nice spring clean, all looking nice and ready. And so what I've got to go with that now is I've made some pallet facing material. So I'll show you how I've made that. I'll just get an example. So I've got some nice soft leather. This has kind of got a kind of suede side and a shiny side, and I've kept the suede side facing on the outside, and I've glued the soft leather onto a piece of felt. So I've just got this from a material shop for, you know, making dresses and stuff like that. So I've just got some nice felt, and all I've done is just got some of the Eileen's glue, made a little sandwich, or put it like that, on a flat surface, plenty of glue, some flat weights, keep it all flat for a couple of hours, and that's how I make my own pallet facing material. Because it's a lot cheaper than buying it, and it's the same stuff really, so it's just nice soft leather with felt. There we are. So I'm hoping I've made enough. I guess we'll soon find out. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to turn it over, so I want that side on the outside, so the pallets are going to be glued onto the red, so we've got the soft leather on the outside. And let's just see if I've got enough. I hope I have, so I'm just going to organise these. And you can pack them in nicely. I reckon I've just got enough here. Soon find out. Otherwise I'll have to make some more. Now one of the things I like about accordion fixing is that it's the finished product is the sum of all the components that you've been working on. So for example, working on the pallets will change and make the accordion sound better and work better. You know, working on the bellows will make the accordion sound and work better. Doing the reeds, tuning the reeds, all the different things you do, they all add up to an accordion that, you know, does the job nicely. And when you're working on the individual elements like this, you don't know what's going to sound like at the end, so you're just trying to, it's quite exciting because you have to wait to the end when you start putting it all back together to get a feel for how well the accordion's working. So it's kind of a bit of a surprise, and that's quite nice. So yeah, so it's nice to think of every aspect that you're working on is going to impact on the final quality of the sound and how playable the accordion is, which is great. I like that. There we go. So yeah, plenty. Plenty of room. There we are. So the next step is to get my glue. So I'm going to use Eileen's glue. Let's get all these off. and I'm going to start gluing them up, and then once I've put the glue on and put them on, I'm going to put some heavy flat weights onto them just to compress them down for a good couple of hours. So let's get some glue out. Quite a bit, I think. Get some more out in a minute. And I'm going to get a little cloth just to wipe my hands with every now and again. Right, here we go. So put a nice even coating of Hydings glue right up to the edges. Offer it up, and that's it. And just keep going. Plenty of glue right to the edges. Offer them all up, put them all on, and then as soon as they're all on, I'm going to put some flat heavy weights on the top just to compress everything down. So I'll carry on with this as carefully as I can, and I'll show you when I've finished gluing these up. There we are. So that's the gluing completed. So I've got it on my nice flat table here, and I've got some of these puzzles which just are nice and flat, nice and heavy, so they just fit nicely over the top. Add a little bit of weight like that, and then just let's find some more weight. Okay, let's just build it up, and I've got some of these as well. There we go. There we are. So I'm going to leave that for a good 2 hours or so, and just to let that really press down, and then once that's all set, sharp knife, cut out all the pallets, and then I'll show you the final step, which is refixing the pallets to the pallet arms. Okay, so see you in about 3 hours. There we go. 2 hours later, or maybe 3. Take these off. Whoopsie! Just dropped my battery. Right, okay, let's take these off. These puzzles. There's a book. Yep. There we go. So that's all nicely stuck, and I've had plenty of time to dry. So now I'm just going to cut these out with a nice sharp blade and try and get as close to the edges as I can. So I'll show you when I've done that bit. Here we are, all done. So now I'm happy with the pallets. Hope you can see how they are. If I could just zoom in a little bit. There we go. So it looks like a nice little sandwich now of the felt and the leather. There we go. So that's nice. Going to give you a nice finish, a nice kind of action on the pallet onto the wood. So I'm happy with that. So the next step is to get these in order, numerical order, because I have numbered them, and that will help me get them in the right order and also the right way orientated. And then I'm going to get my wax heater turned on, and I'm going to use wax to fix these onto the pallet arm. So let me get all that sorted, and I'll come back and just show you the final step of waxing on the pallets onto the pallet arms. There we are. I'm all ready. So I've got a few tools to help me. I've got some long needle nose pliers. This can be helpful for getting the pallet into the right position on the arm. I've got a pair of tweezers and a little screwdriver, just little things to help me get things into the right position. The wax has been heating up, so what I'm going to do is, and I've got all the pallets in order as they came off, so they're all the right way around and then the right order, which is great. So I'm going to start with the inside row, because you have to put those on first, because if you don't get those, if you put these outside row ones on first, you're never going to get the inside ones in. So you have to start with the inside ones. And what you have to do is press the outside row keys to lift up the arms, and then lift up the inside row arm as well. So you've got to lift up the white keys to get it under, and the black key. So you've kind of got to press 3 keys really to, it's a bit sticky that one, to get that to work. So let's get the first pallet ready. So I've got my little cloth just to help here. Got my brush. It's nicely heated. So on the pallet itself, what I'm going to do is put a little coating of wax inside that slot, and then I'm going to push it into position, push the arm down onto it, so it'll push it down onto there while that is flat against the board. Rather than lifting up the arm, putting it on, put the pallet on the wooden kind of board, and then put the arm onto it, and that will kind of allow you to make sure that that pallet is sitting flat on the board. Otherwise you might be at the wrong angle. Right, so let's give it a little coating of wax just inside there, and then we need to lift up, and this is where I'm going to use a little screwdriver just to get that in position, and then using that shadow that I could see, push that down. And then with the brush, just going to go over the top and let some wax run down around the arm to finish off the job. There we are. I don't know if I can zoom in and show you that. Let's have a look. There we are. Just there. That's now fitted. And that will just now hopefully give it a nice position over that panel. Right, so I'll do the next one, and yeah, again, a little bit of wax into that groove. And you have to lift up the white notes and the black notes to manoeuvre that into position. So these inside ones are always more tricky, just because you've got to do this kind of manoeuvring. Push that down in. Just give it a nice little. There we are. That's 2 in. So what I'll do, I'll repeat all of the inside rows, and I'll show you when I've done it. There we are. That's the inside row. Nicely done. I'll just zoom in a little bit, and that might be possible. There we go. So they're all nicely fixed on. I'm not going to do anything with leveling the keys or anything until that wax is fully cooled, so I'll leave that for tonight. But I'm going to do the outside row now, and so the outside row is much easier because you haven't got to get past another row of arms. So once you've gone, when you come onto the outside row, it's all plain sailing, as long as you might remember to get them in the right order. So you just simply just got to lift up the key. I'll just do one to show you, but it is a lot easier. So lift up the key, put a bit of wax on first, just to hold it in position. Lift up the key, slide it into place and use the shadow as your guide. Push it down firmly and just a little bit of wax. Just to hold that in. Nice and neat as you can get it. Yeah, that's it. So I'm going to carry on now. I'm going to do all of the outside row and I'll show you when those are finished. And there we have it. See, there we are. That's all the pallets have been waxed in. Looking nice. And I can just hold it up to the light and just have a look up to light and just check that there's no light chinks, which will show that the pallets aren't sitting properly, but it all looks to be nicely kind of sealed up there. So now the keys will need just a little bit of leveling, not quite even, just because I've taken the pallets off and put them on again, and yeah, they just need a little bit of leveling, but that's not a problem. But I'm not going to do that yet. I'm going to leave this for a while now, just let that all cool and get settled. And yeah, so I'll tackle the leveling a bit later on during the restoration. But there we are. So there we are, pallets on the treble side. So where am I? Here I am. Hope that was useful. Oh, excuse my French. Hope that was useful. And in the next video, I don't really know what I'm going to do next video. I think it's going to be putting the reeds back in. I might level the keys actually, so I'll do that in a few days. Level the keys back, reed blocks back in. Oh, and I'm also going to tackle the piccolo reeds on the base side, so I might cover that as well and show you how I just close up those reeds so that they're not actually functioning. And then yeah, so that'll be the next video. But thanks for watching. See you next time.